Why the Red Sox series loss against the Phillies isn't as bad as you think it is.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's completely free. So make sure that you continue to tune in because Locked On is your team every single day. Welcome to the show. Happy Thursday. I apologize for getting the episode out late today. I actually am in Philly right now traveling, was at the game last night, and what a crazy game that was. The Red Sox picked up the win in 11 innings in an absolute thriller to avoid getting swept. Going to be talking a little bit about that today, as the series may not have been as bad as you think it is. Why the Red Sox should still be buyers at the trade deadline, and the rumors about Josh Naylor. So the Red Sox are a team that we've seen a lot of inconsistencies from this entire season. And it's been really frustrating as a fan because we just want to see a winning season. We want to see a season in which the Red Sox make the playoffs and the whole shebang. And they have faced a really tough schedule coming out of the All-Star break between playing the Cubs and then playing the Phillies. Both playoff teams, both with really good records, and both among the best teams in not just the National League, but in the entire sport. So that's a tough go and a tough way to start the second half of the season. And the Red Sox had a really tough series against the Cubs, did not play well. Offense was pretty much non-existent, but they still pulled out a win. And the last game of the series showed that they still are resilient. They can still win. And they put up 6 runs in that game. Then they go into Philly and they lose the first 2 games in frustrating fashion, but were able to pull out the series finale. Now, yes, they lost the series, but it wasn't as bad as you think it was. And here's why. So the Red Sox went into this series as pretty big underdogs against the Phillies. I mean, odds against them, pitching matchups being against them. And the first game of that series, the Phillies had their ace on the mound in Zack Wheeler. And the Red Sox had Walker Buehler on the mound, who has had his struggles this year. So obviously people penciled that in automatically as a Phillies win because they said, well, I don't really trust that Walker Buehler is going to get it done. Zack Wheeler's their ace, and rightfully so. And the Phillies did win. But you know what? It went 10 innings, and they won 3-2 on a catcher's interference on a checked swing. You don't see that every day, and it was just a weird way to win a game. But Walker Buehler actually outpitched Zack Wheeler in that game. Buehler went 7 strong innings, giving up 6 hits and 2 runs, just one of those being earned, with 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. He threw 89 pitches, 61 for strikes, and improved his ERA to 5.72. Zack Wheeler, who has a 2.39 ERA on the season, so just take that into account, that compared to the 5.72 that Walker Buehler has, he threw 6 innings, giving up 7 hits and 2 earned runs with no walks and 10 strikeouts. So he obviously generated a lot more swing and miss stuff than Buehler did. And that's something that was to be expected. I mean, Wheeler is a big swing and miss kind of pitcher, and Buehler is not so much. The Red Sox as a team struck out 16 times in the game, whereas the Phillies struck out 8. But overall, if you just take the strict box score, Walker Buehler had the better outing. And that was something that people didn't really expect. And while the Red Sox offense didn't really generate a ton of action, they did string together 8 hits in the game compared to the Phillies 7. So from an offensive standpoint, the Red Sox actually did slightly more. They just could not score in the top of the 10th inning, which was ultimately what lost them the game. Yes, the catcher's interference was bad, but the Red Sox could have scored in the top of the 10th inning. They just decided they, for whatever reason, didn't want to bunt over the ghost runner. But my point is, they played 10 innings of even baseball with the Phillies in game 1. And then you take out that bottom of the 10th, and it really was a back and forth even play action. Game 2 of the series was tough. It was kind of a dud. The Red Sox were facing a really tough pitcher in Christopher Sanchez, who's had a fantastic season this year, and they lost 4-1 in that game because the offense was basically non-existent and could not really get anything going. So that was the game of the series that I said, okay, this just didn't go well. We deserve to lose. It is what it is. I mean, Sanchez pitched the entirety of the game, 9 innings, giving up 4 hits and 1 earned run on just 0 walks and 12 strikeouts. So, I mean, just not the Red Sox day offensively, just could not pick him up at all. So that was the game of the series in which the Phillies definitely played better. Then you go to game 3, which was all over the place. I was at the game. I was happy to be at the game. And the Red Sox rallied from being down 5-0. 5-0. That's very telling of the story of this game. They went into the 5th inning having been no hit up until that point. Then in the 5th inning, they exploded for 6 runs, particularly thanks to a Romy Gonzalez grand slam when the Red Sox were down 5-2 that gave them the lead. But they started getting interesting in that inning when Luzardo, the Phillies pitcher, started losing control and walking people. He wasn't really throwing a lot of strikes in that inning. So people were getting walked and the Red Sox were making him pay. And sure enough, they rallied to go up 6-5. And then the Red Sox gave up the tying run later in the game, as when Aroldis Chapman was pitching, JT Realmuto crushed a solo home run to make it a 6-6 game. Also, though, in that 5th inning when the Red Sox hit that grand slam to make it 6-5, JT Realmuto, speaking of him, had the opportunity to make a play in foul territory for a pop out for an out that would have ended the inning, and it still would have been 5-0. So prior to all of these runs scoring, you can look at him as a big reason why things fell apart for the Phillies. So that was an issue for them, but I'm not complaining. So then the Phillies tied it 6-6. They brought in Aroldis Chapman in the 7th inning because the toughest part of the Phillies order was coming up to bat. When you look at Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper, who else in the bullpen do you trust to face that part of the order late? That was the correct move to go to Chapman there. And sure enough, he gave up the tying run on a solo home run. And then in the top of the 10th inning was when things got interesting again, because nobody scored in the 9th. So then in the top of the 10th, Duran was the ghost runner on second base. Alex Bregman came in to pinch hit, could not get the job done, but then luckily Story had a double to score the go-ahead run and make it 7-6. Again, Alex Cora didn't want to manufacture the run by bunting Duran over, but luckily it still worked out thanks to Trevor Story. And then in the bottom of the inning on a Kyle Schwarber single, the Phillies tied up again at 7. It was just such a crazy ending to this game. And then in the top of the 11th, Carlos Narvaez hit a 2-run home run to make it a 9-7 game. And then ultimately Alcala came in to pitch for the Red Sox in the bottom of the 11th. And the Phillies did end up scoring 1 run on a Rojas single that scored Bryce Harper, and it ended up ultimately ending 9-8. But the 2-run homer gave the Red Sox that security, an extra run, so that they could end up winning this game. And ultimately that's what happened. And it would have been really demoralizing if it was a sweep, because the Red Sox have a tough Dodgers team to face at home coming up this weekend. So for them to lose again would have been really tough from a momentum standpoint. But now they pulled off a win after grinding it out for 11 innings and now have some momentum to return home against a tough Dodgers team. And the Red Sox have been playing better at home than they have on the road. And that's the other thing too, is facing 2 really tough teams on the road who are both very good at home, to then go home where you've been playing better to face the Dodgers with some momentum now is a game changer. So this series was not as bad as it looked at even baseball with the Phillies. So it showed that they can compete with the big dogs. Yes, they lost 2 of those 3 games, but if you really break down how the series went, the Red Sox were in a lot of those games, and it wasn't like they were getting smoked by this Phillies team. In 2 of those 3 games, it was a back and forth effort, and the Red Sox showed that even the stacked teams in the league, they have a shot. And that's really exciting because where this Red Sox team is at right now with all of its young players and everybody still learning to execute in high pressure situations, they were able to execute last night. And the win last night totally changes the outlook of the entire series. If they lost that game last night, it would have been, well, the Phillies are just the better team, which still is true. But the Red Sox being able to pull off a win and taking the Phillies to extras in game 1 shows that it was a pretty even series overall. And why does that say that the Red Sox should still be buyers? Going to be talking about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue. And so there's a lot of merch that you can get as a Red Sox fan from Gameday Hue. So essentially, Gameday Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. Essentially, it's about letting your colors speak for you. So people look at your hat, and while the Red Sox logo isn't on it, they know you're representing the Red Sox because it has the exact Red Sox shade of color, which is pretty cool. My husband loves rocking it on the golf course because he can still rep his team while having it be subtle with not a lot of design on it. And it's really comfortable. There's also gloves that go with it. And my husband, again, uses the golf glove on the golf course because it's perfect for that as well. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. My husband's been repping this attire ever since he got it, and he really loves the new look that it gives him on the golf course. And honestly, it might be making his golf rounds better. So hey, whatever works, right? You will be repping your team in style if you check out Gameday Hue today. The Red Sox are coming off of a very competitive series against the Philadelphia Phillies. And while they lost 2 of 3 games, they showed that they can compete. And that's the biggest thing that's important here is that the Red Sox were able to compete with a very strong Phillies team. Now, game 1 going to extra innings. Game 3 going to extra innings. Game 2 was the only dud of the series in which the Red Sox offense really couldn't get going, but they put up 9 runs against a really tough Phillies pitching staff in the 3rd game of that series. And in the 1st game of that series, going to extra innings, obviously their offense wasn't as productive, but they were facing one of the best pitchers in the league in Zach Wheeler in that game. So expectations for them to score a lot were not really high, but they were grinding. They were getting his pitch count up early, and that was a big key for the Red Sox in that matchup. So there's lots of good takeaways from that series, and one of the biggest takeaways from that series is the Red Sox should still be buyers at the trade deadline. Again, losing a series is what it is. Nobody wants to lose series. It's unfortunate. But if Craig Breslow and company were to throw this season in the towel over a rough start after the All-Star break, because the Red Sox are now 2-4 coming out of the break, that would be tough because the potential is certainly there for this Red Sox team. And if you just get a couple more key pieces to help the Red Sox get over the hump, they could be very well a team that goes deep in the playoffs. So if you think about it with this Philly series, for example, if they had Garrett Crochet on the mound in game 1, there's a good chance they win that game because while Walker Buehler had a really historic performance, Garrett Crochet may have an even better performance. It's hard to know for sure, obviously, but if you had a secondary pitcher behind Crochet that you could slot into that rotation to throw behind him, that would be a huge game changer, because then you're looking at a team that has a reliable 1 and 2 to go along with Brayan Bello as the number 3, who has been pitching really well over the last couple months. Then you have Lucas Giolito and Walker Buehler still in the rotation. And if you don't feel confident enough in Walker Buehler and his ability to perform well down the stretch, then you can take him out of the rotation and make him a longer relief guy, and you can throw somebody else back in. For example, Tanner Houck, he's still trying to figure out where he goes from here. He finished his rehab assignments, and the Red Sox still aren't ready to activate him yet. So obviously there's still something going on there with his injury, but he's an option to slot back into the rotation if you feel like you would prefer to have Buehler in the pen. But if you acquire another starter at the trade deadline, it gives you that option, because Richard Fitz definitely is having some mechanical issues still that he needs to work out. So he isn't necessarily somebody we can look at and say we can rely on a lot to be coming out of the Red Sox rotation moving forward. So especially once Tanner Houck does come back, I'm sure he would end up getting sent back down to AAA. Or if that time doesn't come before the trade deadline and the Red Sox go out and acquire a starting pitcher, then it gives them that roster flexibility of still being able to move on from Fitz. And then you have a rotation that consists of Garrett Crochet, mystery pitcher, Brayan Bello, Lucas Giolito, and Walker Buehler. And that's not a bad rotation. Lucas Giolito struggled last night against Philly. Again, that's a really tough lineup for any pitcher to go up against. He didn't have his best stuff last night, but I do feel like Giolito overall, with what he's been giving us over the last couple of months, is somebody that we could rely on later in the season to throw in that rotation. So it gives the Red Sox options. And when you go up against a team like the Phillies, when you go in expecting to lose the series, and you do lose the series, but in really competitive, dramatic fashion, you really can't help but say, oh, wow, we can be in the conversation. If we just add the right pieces to go around these guys, we can be a team that continues to compete. And when you want to get over that hump and you want to be able to feel confident that you can beat a team like Philadelphia, if you acquire a big bat or two and you acquire a strong starting pitcher that you could throw into game 2 of a series, or even game 3 for that matter, when you have your strong 1, 2, 3 punch going, you then feel a little bit better about playing a team like that. The Red Sox are a young team, but they are resilient, as Alex Bregman said. He mentioned in an interview that the Red Sox might not be able to beat every team, but they have showed their ability to compete, and they will grind every single day. And the front office owes it to them to add to this baseball team. Now, obviously, buying might not mean going all out and getting Joe Ryan and depleting the farm system for it, but they can go out and get a number 2 or number 3 caliber starting pitcher because of the fact that they have Brayan Bello, who's shown lots of strides as of late. And they can go out and get a big bat without having to completely deplete the future of what the Red Sox are going to be. Now, this still might mean getting uncomfortable. We might see the Red Sox part ways with some prospects that you might be a little upset to see them part ways with, or we might see them part ways with major league talent that you really like, that you didn't want to see them part ways with. But unfortunately, that's just part of how things go. And you have to get uncomfortable sometimes if you want to make your team better. And that's the biggest thing that the Red Sox need to think about here is it's okay to get uncomfortable, and it's okay to go out there and make moves that are going to make your team better. And if anybody is okay with doing that, it's Craig Breslow. He has shown on multiple occasions that he's okay with getting uncomfortable. And trading Rafael Devers was the biggest example of that. He understands that he might do some things that could cause him to get a lot of backlash from the fan base, but he has shown that he's willing to do that to make the team better in the long run. And as a result of the Rafael Devers trade, the Red Sox have been able to have a lot more roster flexibility when it comes to being able to play guys in different spots and give different guys opportunities. And with the young players and the outfield talent like Roman Anthony, Cedar Rafaela, Jaron Duran, Wilyer Abreu, it gives them all the opportunity to play a lot more. And granted, one of them still sits every game because Yoshida also is part of that mix. But if Rafael Devers was still here as the DH, then they would have also had to work Yoshida into that rotation of outfielders. And it would have been really hard to get a guy like Roman Anthony to be playing most days, who's the top prospect in baseball and who you want to continue to develop in your system. Now, obviously, you could say that with other players that you had traded, but the Red Sox would rather allocate those resources elsewhere into this team and be able to utilize the money that they offloaded by trading Devers to improve other areas of the roster to create a more complete team that can contend down the road and now. But the pressure, considering all of that, is 100% on the front office here, because if the front office stands pat at this trade deadline and doesn't do anything to improve this Red Sox team, that's going to be an incredibly tough look on them, because this is a team where you feel like they have so much momentum and you feel like they have so much potential to compete against the top dogs in the league. And it would be really upsetting if they don't get the pieces that can help them do that. Because obviously you look at the Red Sox and compare them to a team like the Phillies, and you do feel like the Phillies are still a step ahead. I mean, that lineup has so much depth, and there are so many dangerous hitters in that lineup. You even take it beyond that 1, 2, 3, and you still have a lot of dangerous guys in that lineup. There's really no guy who's quote unquote easy to pitch to in that Phillies lineup. Then you take their pitching, which is also very talented and has a lot of depth from a starting rotation standpoint too. And you say, wow, they really are a step ahead. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case as much if the Red Sox go out and acquire these pieces. So that's the biggest thing that I am looking for them to do at this trade deadline. Buy. You lost a series against the Phillies, but you showed that you can compete with them. They have to do the same thing against the Dodgers. Hopefully they can squander a couple wins in that series. They're facing Emmett Sheehan Friday night. That's a good opportunity to get a win. Dustin May on Sunday, another opportunity to get a win. Saturday might be tough because Clayton Kershaw is pitching. But the Red Sox need to be able to get to these pitchers early and get them out of the game, because that's the thing that the Red Sox offense is good at, is working pitch counts. And if they can do that early on in this Dodgers series, they have a chance to win that series. So got to go out there and at least be competitive against the Dodgers at home. And they are looking at a spot to where it wouldn't make sense for them not to buy. And speaking of buying, is Josh Naylor a realistic option for the Red Sox? I'm going to be discussing that next. Sometimes it can feel really hard to manage your money. I know that. I understand that. I've been in that boat before, but that all changed when I started using Monarch Money, which is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center that allows you to track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So essentially, in addition to building wealth, you're also able to manage your money, because Monarch Money has been able to show me all of the unnecessary things that I'm spending money on, because I had all kinds of subscription services that I was using that I shouldn't be using because I wasn't utilizing them at all. So I was paying unnecessarily for these things. So Monarch Money was able to prevent me from doing that and was able to say, hey, you're spending too much money on this service, or you're spending too much money on takeout. And that's a big thing that I've been able to cut down on since, is ordering food out. And I've limited how often I order takeout. So Monarch Money can also help you with that today. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Do not miss out on that. It is absolutely a great deal, and you'll find that you're living a lot more comfortably financially. The Boston Red Sox should 100% be buyers at the trade deadline. No doubt about it. They're showing that they can compete against good teams, and that's what's going to help them to continue to compete against those good teams, is buying at the trade deadline and investing in this team. Now, Josh Naylor is a name that has been linked to the Red Sox, and I have heard that the Red Sox have had preliminary discussions with the Diamondbacks. Now, preliminary discussions means they've opened up talks. They're not close to a deal or anything, but there have been some discussions that the Red Sox have had with the Diamondbacks about a trade that would send first baseman Josh Naylor and pitchers Merrill, Kelly, and Jalen Beeks to the Boston Red Sox. Now, I talked about Josh Naylor on the show the other day. He could be a strong first baseman that could provide a power bat to the Red Sox lineup. It could help them almost fill that hole that they're missing offensively without Devers, because they do need that offensive productivity still in the lineup. And that's something that I am looking out for at the trade deadline, is will they replace that Devers bat? So Josh Naylor would be a guy who could be a good fit, because you can play him against righties and lefties, and he could be a big boost to the lineup. From a pitching standpoint, Merrill Kelly is a pitcher being discussed in that trade. Right-handed pitcher who has a record of 9-5 this season with a 3.32 ERA over 21 appearances. He's pitched 122 innings and has 118 strikeouts. Now, Kelly, his average in a lot of categories, he's great in chase percentage, gets lots of swings outside the zone, which is a plus side to his game, but his fastball velocity averages 92.1, so that he has to get up, because that's a pitch that hitters see very well. So he's actually in the 17th percentile for fastball velo, which is incredibly concerning. K percentage, he's in the 63rd percentile, which is pretty good for sure. It's above average, definitely could be a little bit better, but he's at a 24.2% K percentage right now compared to a 7.6 walk rate. So his strikeout and walk percentages both are about average, 61st percentile in walk rate. So those are both things that he needs to improve on. But I could see this being a pitcher that Craig Breslow is intrigued by, because Breslow has always been a guy who likes swing and miss stuff. And again, because he's durable in that category and he gets guys to chase a lot, it could be a guy who could help this Red Sox rotation. Now, he definitely wouldn't be even close to a number 1 or number 2 starter, but he's certainly a durable number 3. So you could slot him behind Garrett Crochet and Brian Bayo, and he would be just fine in that spot. And you would feel like you got a rotation boost by adding him in. Jalen Beeks is a left-handed pitcher, which is something I know the Red Sox are also interested in acquiring. He has a 2-1 record this season and a 4.39 ERA over 42 appearances that he's made with 1 save. He's thrown 41 innings and has recorded 39 strikeouts. So this is somebody who would be more coming out of the pen. And while the Red Sox didn't say that they're prioritizing the relief market per se, they are at least looking at it, and they're considering pitchers on the relief market to help improve this team. So he's somebody who they could add maybe as a middle relief guy who could contribute in that area, or could be a high leverage guy depending on how he pitches. His ground ball percentage is in the 89th percentile, so he generates a lot of weak contact, which is very promising. Average exit velocity is in the 85th percentile. So again, preventing lots of hard hit balls. His whiff percentage is in the 74th percentile. Chase percentage, 62nd percentile, which is pretty good. He's okay in strikeout percentage in the 53rd percentile, but walk percentage is poor in the 39th percentile. So that's something to be a little bit concerned about with him, is the command, because he does walk quite a few people. But overall, he could be a durable middle relief guy. Now, he's not necessarily somebody that I would rely on in high leverage right away because you want to make sure that he's not going to walk the house in high leverage. But he does have some good stuff. He has 3 pitches that he primarily utilizes, which is his 4-seamer, which he uses 47% of the time, a changeup, which he uses 41% of the time, and a cutter that he uses 12% of the time. So he does have primarily a 2-pitch mix and a 3rd pitch that he throws in there every once in a while. But I wouldn't necessarily see him as a high leverage guy. However, the Red Sox could use the relief help. And if they could pull off a deal that would bring in those 3 guys, that would all help the Red Sox because any depth you can get from a pitching standpoint would be huge down the stretch, especially with the Merrill Kelly aspect of it. I wouldn't be as excited about Jalen Beeks. I would be a little bit more excited about Merrill Kelly and what he could bring to the table. But with a Red Sox bullpen that does have some guys who have been struggling and does have injuries, including to a key pitcher in Justin Slayton, who's a high leverage arm, having another guy out there who can help in relief is huge for this Red Sox team. So that is a deal that I would make. Again, it depends on what the cost is. They might have to give up a haul for that. And that's something that I would say the Red Sox need to be prepared to do. But overall, I don't hate it. Could be a huge boost to this Red Sox team, a team that deserves to be invested in, a team that deserves to just get a couple more players that could really help put them over that hump because I really do feel like there's a lot of potential there. And this is a Red Sox team that could 100% be in the mix come October. So we'll have to see how that goes. But thank you for listening to Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen. Make sure that you next check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really is great because it keeps you updated on every game going on across the league. So make sure you check that out next. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.